Welcome, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Daryl, one of the trainers here at CAS. We're going to do some slides, but I'm going to take a risk, and we're going to do some live stuff today, too. So something I'll address, we'll get into the slides here in just moments, but Newton is our agentic, so an agent, a chat agent, agentic AI search capability embedded in STN. We call it IP Finder powered by STN. I have to break a habit because I've been doing this a while. But what I want to do is, while we do some slides, let's multitask. Right? So I opened up a brand new session of STN, and I'm going to do a Newton chat on I'm going to do a Newton query on what you see in the chat. So I chatted this out to everyone. So if you want to play around with it with me, that'd be fantastic. I named my transcript, name your transcript, right? I do a lot of examiner training in certain patent offices, and I'm like, name your transcript. Get a good habit of name your transcript. I'm going to go ahead and name that and continue. And then right here in the top left is where we access STN's Newton capability. We have this branding. This is the same branding you might see in SciFinder as well if you're a SciFinder user. We'll go ahead and click on that. And it says hello, and we can just enter in free text. So that's what our focus will be a little bit today. Today we're looking at different ways to query databases. So I'm a chemist. Most of my searching actually has been in electrical engineering, but mostly focused on the chemical aspects of the different components that go into a semiconductor device or electrical engineering device. I often found myself completely focused on CA+. So I work for CAS, it's in the name. I would do a lot of registry searching and then go to CA+. But Newton is not just for CA+ or CAS databases. It's actually really helpful if you're trying to venture into other places, other databases. When you're looking, I'm a prior art searcher. I'll get into my background in just moments. But as a prior art searcher, all I need is the content, an author, and a date. I frankly do not care where it comes from. In fact, when I was a prior art searcher, I sent to an examiner a YouTube video because the YouTube video made mention of an aspect of a musical instrument. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but today we're focused on databases and helping us better search databases that maybe we don't have a lot of experience in. That's what Newton was designed to do, is to make STN approachable to a new user and help the advanced or intermediate user go into other places and be effective. Those are kind of two big deals with Newton. I mean, it's designed to find results as well. I'm going to go ahead and execute the search. What you're going to notice is that I can make this a little bit bigger just because we can. I have histories over here off to the left, and Newton is thinking about things. Can a computer think? Newton can think anyway. We're going to get back to this. We'll come back and take a look at this live answer set. Hopefully my STN session doesn't time out. I'll keep an eye on it, but we'll come back to this and let's talk about what's going on with Newton. I just want this to run in the background because it takes about 5 minutes to run. We're not going to sit here for 5 minutes and talk about anything other than Newton. We're going to get into some slides and we'll come back to that. So welcome everyone. As mentioned, I am one of the CAS trainers. I'm one of the senior trainers. I typically work with patent offices. My background is I was an indexer at CAS, so I was one of the people that does the hand indexing of patents and journals that go into the registry substance database as well as the CA+ bibliographic database. I did that by hand when I got out of graduate school. I quit CAS and worked at the United States Patent and Trademark Office as a member of an organization called STIC, S-T-I-C. That is the Scientific Technical Information Center. And what the STIC searchers do is they are the search service within the USPTO. So an examiner would phone me up, email me, contact me, however you do that kind of thing, and say, hey, Daryl, I need you to help me search on this chemical structure or this semiconductor assembly of different layers, whatever the case may be. I would conduct a search, mostly in STN, but also in other places like ProQuest Dialog, Thomson Innovation at the time, places like that, all in the hope of helping the examiners be better at examining, so that we have expert search results. And then I've been back at not USPTO, back at CAS as a trainer for a little over 7 years at this point. So I work with a lot of intellectual property organizations. So we won't name names, but law firms, and then also some patent offices as well, continuing to help people understand better how to use SciFinder. But today we're talking about STN, and that's where most of your effective intellectual property IP searching comes from. So getting into what we see on the page right now, we have an IP agent in STN conducting the search for you. We're going to talk about this a little bit, but I want everybody to understand that when Newton runs in STN, every command is captured in your transcript, and you can get your query summary out, your history, your search history. You can also get your transcript out because it is doing all of that work. We're going to see this live when we come back at the end of the session while Newton's running. By the way, Newton's running. It's doing its job. If you're following along, that's completely good. We'll talk about some things with respect to AI and whatever. I always like to point out that as a searcher myself, Newton teaches me things that maybe I forgot, didn't learn, or certainly if I go into a new database, I'm just unfamiliar with because of lack of experience. As a prior art searcher, just in case you're not the initiated type, I could run into any search. An examiner could call me up and say, hey, Daryl, I need a search on antibody drug conjugates or nanoparticles or organic LED devices. I had to get up very quickly with accuracy and deliver results. They needed this thing. This is part of I was a service person. I served the examiners, and I was happy to do it. I was always happy to get them really good answers. I find that the Newton platform within STN is going to supplement, add to your already amazing capabilities as a trained searcher or someone that's learning. We're all in different paths in our way. It will show you every command. You can display the history while Newton is running. You can actually do that. We'll do this live. Some people do this a lot more, but you can display every line, every database. It's part of your transcript, and it does it for you, hopefully teaching you and helping you be more effective as a searcher. Searcher, researcher, I think we have a Freedom to Operate coffee lecture next. I'll have a plug for that. So if you're like, hey, this prior art guy, I need to know more FTOs type stuff, we're going to have a coffee lecture on that too. It's transparent. Everything's happening in your command line. It's just doing it for you. And this is definitely designed, and I'm on the team that's helping develop Newton further. So currently Newton works on Anthropic. We have, in the United States, we have some customers that cannot use Anthropic-based systems. So we're looking for other AI agents, other artificial intelligence agents to work on our behalf. That's something that we're currently addressing as we speak. And so we are working on making this better for the STN type person. Keep in mind that if we're really honest with ourselves, STN and IP Finder, for that matter, serves a different type of searcher than SciFinder does. Right? SciFinder is really focused on research scientists. IP Finder is named that way because it is designed for intellectual property workflows. SciFinder only addresses or only accesses CAS databases. STN, way more databases, certainly databases that we don't maybe have as much familiarity with. And we find that IP Finder, or the Newton capability, does a fantastic job of looking into other reasonable databases to go into. And by the way, just if you're following at home, IP Finder for the search that we started with, it's run. It's already finished. So we'll be able to take a look at that together. So it took maybe about 5 minutes or so. So as mentioned, we have an access right here. You're going to see this branding. Both of these are from STN. This is from SciFinder. So we're carrying on. Whenever you see this kind of symbol here, that means that is an AI inspired thing or AI access. In SciFinder, there's more than just ask Newton a question. SciFinder also will do summaries of a large answer set. That's something that STN can do too. You can actually say in the STN Newton window, I've already done some searching. I have L numbers. Hey Newton, can you in the middle of my search take a look at L5 and analyze that for certain things? It will do that for you. You could extract, or you could say, hey Newton, L5, that's a great L number. Would you take a look and see whether or not there's interesting answers similar or based on that search in other databases? You absolutely could do that. So you don't have to start with Newton. You can pick up Newton midstream. So it is free text. And what you'll notice is that it is going to update you with its quote unquote thinking. I have a hard time. Humans think. Computers are not humans. So I try not to get too hung up on terms, but you'll actually see its approach. It will say things like, these are the terminologies that I'm looking at. When you start with a plant-based protein, it has certain understandings already built into it. When I think of plant protein, so if anyone's a vegan in the audience or just happens to know about vegan protein powder, a lot of protein powders are a combination of proteins from natural sources. Pea protein shows up a lot, of course, soy and lentil. The system understands these things. It's building out search. We have a question in the chat. It says previous trainings have said to start in Newton because Newton deletes previous history. What I think you might be referring to is that your previous Newton sessions are not interactive anymore. But let me think here for a second. It can delete your history, but it's still part of your transcript. It would still be part of your session history. I guess what I would say to any question about like doing Newton midstream on a search is that it will affect what you have done in the past. So it might be like if you're working on a deliverable, I would say don't use Newton in the middle of doing something deliverable. If you're just doing some like preliminary research, absolutely go for it. So I guess to what Marilyn's question is be a little bit careful of when you execute Newton and how you execute it. If you are in the middle of something very important that you don't want to be adjusted or manipulated, that's not a time to do Newton. What a lot of times I see people will do is midstream they'll use Newton because they're doing preliminary work. So that's a good thing to kind of keep. Good points. All right. The system will go through and build your search. So if you're not so good with proximity, or maybe there are some proximity or approaches to searches that you're not, maybe you're looking for an expansion on your current skills, you could ask it how to effectively build a search strategy. And this could be database dependent. So you could ask it, how would you build a strategy in CA+? Why would I ask for CA+ search strategy versus Embase or Biosis? CA+ has a basic index just like those other two databases, but also CA+ has the claims text. So those would have different types of field assignments, and it can help you find fields as well. All right. I have had questions. So at one point in time, we were marketing and suggesting that that numeric property searching would be available in CA+. That's a thing that CAS was working on. That has been indefinitely delayed. If you're not familiar, in STN, you can search certain files like United States PAT full, PCT full. I think, let me see, there are in non-patent literature files like PQ SciTech that you can search numerically, and it normalizes the units and all of this kind of thing. That was something that we were working on getting into CA+, and it didn't happen for a lot of different reasons. And now I ask this question, are we going to get numeric property searching in CA+? Is that a project that's still working? What we have found is that Newton and the Agentic AI capability does a fantastic job of not only searching places that do have numeric property searching capabilities, but then also could go into other places that do not have numeric property searching and conduct that kind of search for you. So here we have something where we have micrometers or more. You can actually tell it what files to or not to use. A project that we're working on is getting more capabilities for other files that, we can talk about at another time. And it will conduct that search not only in a numeric property searchable field database, but also one that does not. And so it will conduct that search for you and potentially get around databases that do not have numeric property, or to help you be more effective in the files that do have numeric properties. And so you can go into different files, and you can actually exclude files if you want to. There's an on-demand webinar that we did just recently at this link. The slides will be made available to anyone that registered. I sent those out earlier today. I sent those out, excuse me, to my FITS colleague, my FITS Karlsruhe colleague. It might take a little bit of time to get that to you when later today or later this week. Okay, and then the system will understand the numeric property searching capabilities, things of that nature. Okay. So a thing to consider is your strategy. How do you want the search to execute? The system will automatically analyze and summarize your answer set. You can ask it to analyze in other ways. It will immediately present some sort of an actionable answer, or not an actionable answer. I'm always cautious with that. Some sort of summary and some sort of analysis on its own behalf. It wants to deliver something to you, but you can ask it a follow-up question and say, hey, Newton, that was really good, but what I would really like you to focus on is X, Y, or Z. You can ask it a follow-up question. You can implement your preferred style. You can ask it for prior art, say before this date. You could ask it for freedom to operate types of things, which we'll talk about at the next coffee lecture, but something along the lines of, would you only focus on United States patents or something like that, or other patent authorities? And it will try to form itself to the way that you operate. Okay. So things to consider. Whether you're an experienced STN or IP Finder person or not, consider how you want what does a good answer look like? I always talk to my examiners and I say, if you had a perfect publication, what would it look like? Tell me what it would say. Tell me what it would, what kind of guise it would take. It will execute the search, but you can always ask it a follow-up, and you can say, Newton, you went in this direction. I wouldn't actually talk to it. I would just say, consider that I'm not interested in this path that you took, but maybe focus more over here. Today, we're talking about new databases. What other databases are out there? I'm a CA Plus guy, kind of in my title. There are other fantastic databases with valuable information. Could you also take data from your set or a set, your inventor, your assignee, your publishing author, and go and say, hey, would you take a look at other databases with my authors? I want to see if there's any non-patent NPL, non-patent literature out there with my inventors. Absolutely. That's something that people are doing as we speak. And then can you interpret or even start with something that's in command line? Absolutely. Newton is executing commands on your behalf. It's command line. It's really important to understand that you will see what it does and how it does it because it becomes part of your transcript. And so you can get the detailed query summary. I would, this is something that I've been resistant to. So I'm a searcher. I'm a professional searcher. I've been searching for 15 years at this point, mostly in STN, of course, other places too. I was hesitant. I was very hesitant, but you can ask it at any level of question that you're looking for. We have people just copy and paste their claim. So claim one, they'll copy claim one and they'll say Newton search on, this thing in parentheses. But you also have the ability to ask it very broad questions. A question that I just was asked by a colleague, they're trying to do a demonstration on CDRs, complementarity determining regions of monoclonal or just any antibody. You can ask it a question like, hey, Newton, would you find me publications that disclose the CDRs that make up their antibody? It will make an effort to do it. Sometimes it will actually tell you that it cannot find much. It will not make up answers because remember, it's going into databases. So everything that it says is based on a publication or based on something that has occurred in the literature. Try to be descriptive, but concise, right? Some people say please and thank you. I mean, that's nice. It's good to be polite. It's a computer. So, consider concisely stating, I am looking for references that predate this date, whatever it happens to be, that do these things. Consider being extremely concise. I talk to it like it is a computer. It's once again not a human. Newton will often summarize. It'll give you tables if you need those. But if that's not what you want or it doesn't do it properly, you can either ask it to present it differently or ask it the follow-up question and say, hey, what you found looks great. Would you put it in a table that compares X, Y, and Z? It will absolutely do that. So you can have a follow-up question. So you see over here, I'm a new user looking for something. Let's explore this a little bit more. You can ask it the follow-up questions. It will absolutely do the things that you want it to do. All right. So there's a question in the chat. Could I ask Newton for the best prompt to address a particular question? I think that's absolutely. I really do think that that's a possibility. You could certainly say, Newton, this is my problem. What's the best way to approach it? What's the best way to search it? If you don't find what you're looking for, you can follow up with it and you can have a real conversation. It is like having kind of a searcher in your pocket or a partner searcher. You could ask it to create a string if you wanted it to say, I'm looking for this kind of a thing. Would you suggest with proximity, with field codes, how you might approach a search? Absolutely. These are great things to ask it. If you want something specific, ask it to, and then if you want to refine. Okay, consider what are we trying to do? We're looking at different databases. So that was my original question. You'll see that in my initial prompt, I said, find all appropriate databases. That's what I really wanted it to focus on. And how do you want it to support you? What are you looking for? Okay. There's a new kind of training that people are taking, and that's a prompt engineering. How do you ask these AI agents to do stuff? Interesting what it seems like to me. I don't know if anybody else has this experience, but sometimes I'll write an email to a colleague and they just don't understand what I'm saying. The computer can be that same way, right? We need to be clear. And so what are my expectations? What do you want it to do? Ask yourselves all of these questions. And are there any rules? Are there places that you can't go, you don't want to take a look at? Are there files that you need to exclude? Whatever the case may be. What kind of thing are we doing? A lot of times, when we talk about databases, a lot of times this might be exploratory. I'm a prior art person. But consider if you've already run a search, you might be looking for more art because you didn't find it in a place. So if I haven't found it much in my prior art search, I might be trying to accomplish go to other databases because I didn't find anything. I need better answers. Can help you build a query. So once again, to the question that's in the chat, absolutely ask it to help you build a query. It can give you the state of art. We have people that are asking, this organization, this company, what are they doing right now? What is going on in this area of science with that company? Or let's go excluding companies. What is going on in this area of science, just as a general statement? And then it can help you distill down what's going on with those by analysis. It says understanding. It will give you summaries. It will tell you and give you tables and things like that. We have total delegation to AI. That's absolutely, and it will do a step-by-step. You can have it advise you, and you can have it analyze and demystify results. You can have it distill things down. If you have a more complicated search, it might run slower. If you're looking for something fast or quickly, you can ask it a very concise question and say, show me a publication that just talks about this or that. Are you looking for just quick answers? Are you looking for an exhaustive kind of cover the entire planet kind of a search? We're talking about databases today. It will definitely suggest other databases that I just generally don't consider, which is great. We want to see that. Do you want it to include non-patent literature or not? I will tell you, as a non-patent literature person, I try not to speak to Newton as it were a patent agent. I almost try to obfuscate the fact that I'm a prior art person, because I don't want it to do patent as a document type. I do not want it to just go into full text patent files. I am looking just as much for NPL as I am for PL, right? Yeah, Alexander, we will. We're scheduled for half an hour, but they said that we generally go a little bit over. Let's do this. We've talked about the pre instructions and things like that. I will point out that Newton does a really good non-English language. It will translate. If you enter something in, it will interpret that. Search in English and then give you answers and conversate with you in your original initiating language. We'll see these tables that it creates. You can actually ask it to send out a CSV file and things like that. Okay, we have some demo slides. Let's go live actually, since we have that. And I know the schedule was originally indicated to be 30 minutes. So if you have other things, let's do that. So let's take a look at what it did. So the initial search is up here at the top. You'll see my history over here. You can't re-initiate searches, but you can download what happened. Now, you'll actually notice I left this in here on purpose. You might have to change your question depending on what it gives you. So I worked on this question a little bit, and there we are. Now, what's interesting here, immediately for an aerospace search, it went into Compendex. That's great. Aerospace is in the database summary sheet of Compendex as being part of its coverage. It went in and it found those types of things. It looked into different alloys. Now, did it focus on the proper alloys that I'm looking for? I don't know. I just used new alloys. I didn't give it much more guidance other than that. It takes a look at publications. Next, it goes into a different file. I want you to notice that every time I click here, it's taking me to where in the transcript that information is housed or where it was originally found. It went into World Patent Index, WPIDS, taking a look at these types of things. Now, we've gone into a lot of things. It's giving me updates on what's going on. It asked, I gave it a very broad statement, a very broad indication. So it looked for reviews or state of art, survey of progress. And then because of broad question, it's going to summarize what it found, what happened here. So it says recent. I don't know exactly what recent means until we get down here and it says, oh, this is from 24 to 26, major review articles and things like that. Digital object identifiers. It always takes you to a publication. It's designed to show you something that is a database result. So when you go to that kind of thing, it's there. Different titanium alloys. Here we have titanium, aluminum, niobium for aerospace engines, which is great. Not necessarily just looking for wings on airplanes or outer shells or sheathings, also considering engine componentry and how that kind of thing happens. Low cost. Didn't say anything about cost. I just said important or interesting alloys, new used for better strength and or weight reported, I guess I said. So these are low cost. All of this types of stuff. Now, it's once again just summarizing a bunch of answers. We could ask it a follow-up question. Let's get into some questions that are here. Statistics. What did we find? In Compendex, we found this. CA Plus, we found this. In WPIDS, found this. If you want to, you can ask it a follow-up question. Let's go ahead and just ask it, analyze patent trends. There is a question in the chat, and I think that some folks may have to leave because this was, at least the invite was for 30 minutes, but I want to show the transcript. Can I share this transcript? Yes, you absolutely can. As we're working, all of this information that I have in Newton is stored either in my transcripts. We also have under the ellipsis or the three dots off to the right here, I can download this Newton thing. So let's go ahead and do that while we're here. The conversation, I typically work in RDF because I like to make edits to things. Maybe the conversation you'd want to do PDF, but the command line, I always do RTF. Let's go ahead and continue. We'll go ahead and download that. We can actually see it. Sunita, if you're asking if I could share my transcript with you, put your email in the chat. I'll send it to you if you'd like me to. But let's take a look at what it does. So here's okay, awesome. Well, yeah, put your email in the chat. We'll send that out. But here is my transcript, and here's the conversation. So RTF. This will look very similar to just about anyone that has experience with STM. Even though we did a Newton conversation, it's indicating that we did that. It still says, what is everything that Newton did? What are the database changes? So it's originally went into CA Plus a little bit, took a look there. We have all of our different L numbers. I want to see that Compendex that it did. Anyway, I'm not going to go through an entire transcript, but yeah, absolutely. We can get that transcript out to you. Okay. Something else that you certainly can do is I can stop this at any point in time. If you're not seeing that your transcript that Newton produced has a dhist, you can always interrupt the command and say, okay, I'm going to download this transcript. I want to do dhist. Now, when you execute or when you download your transcript, it will have your inputs and CAS inputs or Newton inputs. Okay. We have a question. My company has a GVP agreement. Fantastic. Those are the best way to go. Vicky, no. As far as I know, Newton, hold on, that's kind of a weird way to answer that. I'm not a sales, I'm in the sales department, but I'm not like an account manager. Thus far, every edition of Newton has been under the current contract that you're in. So we turned it on as part of what you're always allowed in STN, and that was no cost. It's included with the GVPs that the salespeople have negotiated, and so no additional costs. I will say that there, as far as I know, there are also no limits in STN inside in IP Finder. Where you start running into limits and kind of issues with coming into contact with a daily limit is SciFinder. Consider that what Newton is doing in IP Finder is that it's just executing searches, so it actually isn't a token intensive search. So it's just executing commands based on your behalf. CAS Finder has some significant daily limitations. It's daily though. What we've noticed is people will go and try CAS Finder's Newton. They might hit the daily limit, and they just come in the next day and pick up where they left off and then continue. Alexander, Newton does not consider inspec because CAS Finder STN no longer contains inspec. Inspec was removed. They told us that that in STN the file went inactive. What was that? The end of 2024. And then by April of 2025, they had demanded that we remove inspec from STN, even the static file that we had. So there's no inspec on STN any longer. It hasn't been on for about a year now at this point. And that's a really good question because inspec's a fantastic file for certainly engineering and mechanical engineering. We use that a great deal. Okay. Are there any other questions? Here. We've gone over the official time by 7 or 8 minutes at this point. And I wanted to get into a live session. I guess I'm working on a little bit of an exit strategy. Sunita, let me get your email out. I'm just copying and pasting it. You sent it out. Thank you so much. Get that out. Let's see here. I had a few more slides. I'm not a huge slides guy, admittedly. So I'm always happy to be more live in the platform than anything. So feed.com. Okay, I wasn't able to copy or paste, so that's what's going on there. Okay, there we go. Alex, I would say there's another question: why business files are not considered for new alloys? This is a very high-level preliminary search. You can certainly ask it to go into different files. So if there are some files that that you're interested in, I have seen people ask, index all STN files for aerospace alloys. So you can actually, when I say index, that certainly betrays a certain amount of preliminary information that I knew about STN. I'm trying to get it to do the index. You can ask it to do that type of a thing. It will definitely do that. So under this very broad search, it probably was a lot more broad than I might have liked it to be. But if you have specific files that you're thinking of, you can ask it to go into those. You could certainly ask it to take a look at different databases. You can just ask it things, and it will certainly do it and start analyzing those types of things. And you were actually seeing it going as we're talking right now. As I mentioned, it usually takes about 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes for very complicated searches. But right now, it's more or less doing exactly what I'm asking it to do. Once again, it's committing all of this to your transcript. It absolutely is. So you can work on that. Okay. Were there any questions? I do have a follow-up email that I'll send. Let me minimize this. We've run over on time. In the slide deck, I go through a few more. Yeah, so there's a question once again in the chat. Right, there is an index command, exactly. I knew to use that. If you didn't know that there was an index command, which is kind of an intermediate capability, you could ask it something more along the lines of, look at all of the files on STN and tell me which ones have alloy considerations for aerospace. You could absolutely ask that. I tend to like to speak my own language, and it's designed for STN. So if you use a word that it recognizes as being an STN capability that can sometimes save you some of the secondary prompting that you might have to do. So these are good questions. But in the slide deck, I wanted everybody to have at least access, if you didn't get the recording, of a search that I looked at. So this is based on a search that I was assisting someone with, and they were looking for pancreatic cancer treatments based on interleukin mixing. They had 3 different interleukins, and they had 3 very specific interleukins. So they had something like interleukin 2, interleukin 7, and I think interleukin 12, now that I think about it. And they were looking for those for pancreatic cancer. We, together, did not find very much. So they said, well, if we could do just any interleukins. So this could be something along the lines of thinking like an examiner of being less of an X reference and maybe a Y reference if you're into PCT, or if you're a USPTO person. This would be the difference between, I didn't find a 102, could you find me a 103? Right? At least show me where the mixture of interleukins have happened. And so it'll go through the process. I don't go into Medline a lot. It immediately went to Medline. It's like, you're talking about pancreatic cancer, you're talking about a disease, we're going into the Medline database. It certainly would go into other databases for sure. It developed a pretty good search strategy. Once again, I had in the initiating search specific interleukins, and I didn't find much. So it started looking at different interleukins. It's going to give you those answers. We went into Biosis as well, so it understood that we should go into a biological database, not just Medline. And then the answers it gave here, key takeaways, clinical relevance, what it actually found. I wanted you all to see exactly what was produced in this search. It goes from top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom, and then this is the final. Would you like me to explore more? Key takeaways, things like that. It summarizes for you. I didn't ask it to summarize. I just said, do this thing for me. And, it gives you something actionable to begin with.